Hello and welcome to this recap of the 2025 Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie. Please note that it contains major spoilers for the film, so if you don't want it to get spoiled, then you should stop watching this recap video now. With that out of the way, let's get started, shall we? The night at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1982 begins like a memory you can't quite place. Balloons, paper crowns, the sticky sweetness of cake, and the low, mechanical hum of animatronics waiting in the wings. Charlotte is small and brave in that way children are. Sitting at the foot of the stage, eyes fixed on the stairs where the marionette is supposed to appear. William Afton, gentle and watchful, leans down to coax her back into the party's orbit, to keep her from wandering too close to the shadows. For a moment, the world is ordinary. Laughter, the squeak of shoes, the bright, painted faces of the mascots. Then the ordinary fractures. Charlotte sees something adults refuse to see. In the dim corridor behind the stage, a figure in a yellow rabbit suit, William Afton, moves with a predator's casualness. He takes a boy by the hand and leads him away. Charlotte's voice tries to pull the adults' attention. Their eyes slide past her. Vanessa protests, but Charlotte follows anyway, the way a child follows a thread of wrongness she cannot name. The back rooms smell of grease and bleach. In the kitchen, the boy lies unconscious. William is at the sink, washing utensils as if nothing is wrong. That small, ordinary motion becomes Charlotte's only chance. When the man in the rabbit suit steps away, she acts. She lifts the boy, carries him out, and brings him back to the stage where the party is still going on. Her victory is immediate and terrible. William reappears like a shadow that has learned to move through doors. He chases Charlotte down a hallway while she is carrying the boy, and she runs with the speed of a child who has seen too much. She makes it out. She gets the boy to safety, but not without cost. A blade, a flash of pain, and Charlotte collapses on the stage, her scream cutting through the party's noise. The boy is safe. Charlotte is not. She dies there in the light, and the trapdoor beneath the stage opens as if the building itself is swallowing the moment whole. The marionette emerges, silent and quiet, and carries Charlotte's small body. That image, an empty stage, a fallen child, the puppet lifting her body, becomes the hinge on which the restaurant's fate turns. Investigations circle and stall. Authorities shrug and say no single person can be blamed for the murder. No arrests are made, but the scandal is enough. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closes its doors, shuttered by rumor and grief. 2 decades later, the past is not a closed book, but a radio station that keeps playing the same song. Vanessa wakes to a call from Mike Schmidt, and the ordinary cadence of adult life, dinner plans, and small talk, and tries to cover the old wounds. Abby, Mike's sister who carries her own history of animatronic friends and losses, teases the idea of Mike and Vanessa's dinner as a date. Jeremiah, painting a house with Mike, disapproves of the evening as he is the kind of friend who thinks the past should stay buried. On the school bus, Abby tells the other kids the story of the rabbit's body rumored to still lie in the abandoned pizzeria restaurant. Most of them laugh it off as a ghost story, but a few listen because children are the only ones who still believe in the stubborn persistence of things that should be gone. At school, the world narrows to deadlines and projects. Mr. Borg, the robotics teacher, is a man who measures worth in finished circuits and completed science fair entries. He rants about FazFest, the town's attempt to turn a dark memory into a festival, and threatens failure for anyone who lets the event distract them. When he sees Abby's small robotic chica, he crosses her name off the list for the fair, telling her not to come. The dismissal stings. A boy beside her, noticing her skill, suggests she could fix the animatronics herself, which gives Abby an idea. That night, the domestic scene is tender and strained. Mike Schmidt asks Abby to help him tie his tie before going out for his dinner with Vanessa. He is awkward in the way adults are when they try to be kind. Abby asks to visit her animatronic friends at Freddy's. Mike refuses, promising repairs soon and urging her to make real friends. He leaves her $20 and a gentle, if clumsy, attempt at normalcy. Abby, left with the glow of the television, watches Spectral Scoopers, a horror show that treats the pizzeria like a haunted set piece. The shows flicker, and the house's quiet push her toward a decision. She slips out, leaving a note, and returns to the place that holds her memories. After the dinner with Vanessa, when Mike returns home and finds the note, he follows her to the abandoned restaurant and finds Abby sitting in front of the stage, small and stubborn in the dark. He tells her that her friends may be gone from the living world, but remain in her heart. It's an attempt at consolation that lands somewhere between comfort and the admission of helplessness. To make amends, he lets her take a small keepsake, a Faz talker, a toy that speaks in canned phrases but feels like a gift to a child who refuses to let go. As they leave, Mike notices a flyer taped among the FazFest advertisements. A call to boycott the festival, and a phone number scrawled beneath it. He tucks the paper away, a small practical act that hints at the town's unresolved tensions. Meanwhile, the crew of Spectral Scoopers, consisting of Rob, Lisa, and Alex, arrive at Freddy's for a live episode, hungry for clicks and ratings. They've been invited by the night guard, who insists on being called Michael when Lisa slips and calls him Mike by accident. He leads them through the restaurant with the practiced charm of someone who knows how to stage fear. Tarps cover Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, and Toy Chica on the stage. The absence of Toy Foxy is explained away as a failed attraction that became something else entirely, the Mangle. A grotesque, reassembled animatronic that was a take-apart-and-put-back-together attraction for kids, with Michael stating, "Kids can be so heartless." The building itself seems to breathe. Lisa hears music on her sound detector, an old, tiny lullaby, and suggests they split up to cover more ground. The decision fractures the group. Rob wanders into the boat ride tunnel and is taken by surprise when a bulb explodes and he falls into the water. The sound of his fall is a punctuation mark. The place is not merely abandoned, it is waiting. Lisa finds the source of the music beneath the stage. A room with a large gift box and a music box sitting beside it. She shuts the music off and leans in, curiosity overriding caution. The box opens on its own. The marionette, long dormant, reanimates and attacks. Panic becomes a chain reaction. Alex hears her screams and rushes to help Lisa, but Michael, who had been smiling in a way that does not reach his eyes, does nothing to stop what follows after Alex yells at him and says, "What did you do to her?" to Michael. And then it happens. The Mangle, a tangle of metal and teeth, snatches Alex with brutal efficiency. His body is torn and dropped, the camera capturing a single terrible hand. Rob, hearing splashing, turns to see the final marionette doll, after they have all disappeared, dropping into the water. He is dragged down, their tiny faces blank and relentless, and the sound of his screams is swallowed by the pool as he is drowned. When Michael finally goes downstairs, he finds Lisa possessed by the marionette. The spirit animating her is Charlotte, the child who died on the stage decades earlier. The possession is not gentle, it is a reclamation. Lisa, no longer herself, charges at Michael. He runs. He makes it out of Freddy's, breathless and grinning with a smile that is all teeth and no warmth. As he steps into the night, he says, "Welcome back, Charlotte," a line that lands like a benediction and a threat at once. The words hang in the air, and the restaurant behind him seems to exhale, as if something long held in the dark has finally been let loose. The morning after the Spectral Scoopers massacre, Mike's house feels like a place where the air itself is holding its breath. Abby sits at the kitchen table with her science fair project spread out in front of her. Mike watches from the doorway, helpless in the way adults are when the past has lodged itself in a child's chest. He wants to fix things for her, to promise that the animatronics will be repaired and the ghosts will stay buried, but he has no map for how to do that. So he does what he can. Small kindnesses, a breakfast, a tie straightened for a dinner he hopes will feel normal. Vanessa's day is a different kind of experience. In a crowded workout class, she is suddenly back in the corridor of her childhood. Only this time the corridor is alive with menace. William Afton's spring Bonnie suit fills her vision, a grotesque, familiar silhouette that moves with the intimacy of a memory that refuses to die. She bolts into a changing room and, in the panic of it, points her gun at a startled patron. The world narrows to the pulse in her wrist and the echo of a laugh that should not be there. At home, she tries to armor herself against the past. She gathers her father's things into boxes, tapes the windows shut, and speaks aloud to the empty house, telling the man who haunts her that she no longer needs him. The confrontation is a trap. In a vision, William chases her down the stairs, whispering possessive words, "You'll always be mine, you're my favorite." And she runs until she finds herself in the memory of a child hiding in a closet in William's workshop, watching circus baby's eyes glow in the dim. The dream ends with a shot fired, a man falling from a railing, and Vanessa waking with the taste of iron in her mouth and the certainty that the past is not done with her. That night, while the town sleeps, Abby's Faz talker buzzes with a message that reads like a dare and a promise. Toy Chica wants help and gives the address of the original Freddy's. Abby slips out into the dark and heads to the location with the Faz talker guiding her in her bike's basket. The pizzeria is a husk of banners and dust, but when Toy Chica appears on the stage, the reunion is immediate and tender, an old friend returned. Toy Chica helps Abby finish the science project, lending mechanical precision to a child's imagination until the final piece clicks into place. In the morning, Vanessa hears the Faz talker chattering in Abby's room and finds the girl radiant with triumph. Abby explains, breathless, how she did it. Vanessa's confusion turns to alarm when Abby describes the original Freddy's location with a specificity that makes the hair on Vanessa's arms stand up. Mike arrives with breakfast and reveals he learned about Charlotte from the number on a flyer he found at Freddy's. Vanessa's frustration with his casualness is a quiet, simmering thing. She knows the danger, and Mike still treats it like a story. On the day of the science fair, Mike detours to Henry Emily's house. Henry is a man hollowed out by grief. He has plastered boycott flyers across town because he cannot accept that his daughter's death was an accident. He believes it was murder, and his anger has hardened into a campaign. From him, Mike learns about the river rides at the original Freddy's location, and in a gesture that feels like passing a torch, Henry gives Mike Charlotte's music box, the tiny thing that once kept the marionette's spirit at bay. Vanessa goes to the old pizzeria and finds the music box still, but its mechanism has been stopped. The silence is a wound. She realizes Charlotte has awakened, and in a moment of terrible clarity tries to speak to the child's spirit. Charlotte does not listen to reason. She lashes out, and Vanessa is attacked. Back at school, Mr. Berg performs a petty cruelty. He, accidentally, drops Abby's project, shattering it into pieces in front of the other students. The humiliation sends Abby pedaling straight to Freddy's, where she finds Toy Chica waiting and Charlotte's presence humming through the animatronics circuits. Charlotte, who remembers being ignored and betrayed, offers Abby a bargain. Make the animatronics your science project and help them leave, and they will be your friends again. The price is a password, an override that will lift the restriction keeping the animatronics trapped. Vanessa is forced into a nightmare calculus. Charlotte watches her through cameras and threatens to kill Abby through Toy Chica, and Vanessa, desperate to protect the child she has come to care for, gives up the code. The moment Abby types it in, the locks click open. The animatronics step out of the dark and into the world. A taxi driver's incredulous stare becomes a small, comic beat as Toy Chica climbs into the back seat with Abby and rides to the science fair with her, with the taxi driver saying he should get a new job and that it's too weird for him. Abby walks into the gym with her friend at her side, unaware of the full cost of what she has done. Mike, finally connecting the dots from Vanessa's morning warning and the flyer he found, returns to the original location alone. He slips through a back room where the withered animatronics, prototype versions of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, stand like broken sentinels. The scene is worse than he imagined. Lisa's body lies where the marionette left it, a grim proof of the danger that has been unleashed. He finds Vanessa tied up and rescues her, and she tells him the truth in a voice that is both accusation and plea. Charlotte is not a monster. She is a child who was failed by the adults who could have saved her. Her revenge is aimed at those parents, and the only way to stop her is to reach the control center and re-enable the system restriction that will cut off the wireless signal animating the animatronics. Their escape is a gauntlet. Balloon Boy nearly slices Mike with a spinning propeller hat in the boat rides water, a moment that is more terror than spectacle. They stagger into the security office, and Mike begins the technical work of reactivating the restriction, while Vanessa leaves and goes to search for Abby, not knowing the danger she is in. At the science fair, Toy Chica is a sensation, until Mr. Borg, still bitter and dismissive, calls the animatronic a fraud and insists she is nothing more than a person in a suit, and tells Abby to take her freak show friend out of the fair now. Charlotte's revenge is precise and merciless. After Toy Chica tells Abby she wants to see what's in Mr. Berg's head, she enters a quiet part of the school and chases Mr. Berg, with Toy Chica killing him after he is cornered in an empty dark room, crushing his head in a moment that is brutal and violent, leaving his broken glasses and a smear of blood as the only punctuation to the violence. After Toy Chica returns to Abby, she is declared the winner of the fair in a hollow, surreal instant, with Abby being unaware Toy Chica just killed Mr. Berg. As Mike works to block the wireless signal that freed the animatronics, the withered animatronics stir. The prototypes, long dormant, awaken when they sense someone trying to cut off Charlotte's control. FazFest arrives like a carnival stitched over an old wound. Banners, food trucks, families laughing under the night, and the loose toy animatronics moving through the crowd like misplaced mascots come to life. They fit in perfectly. No one expects the smiling, plastic faces to be the real things, and no one imagines they could be dangerous. The festival's cheer becomes a camouflage for something far darker, and the town's attempt to celebrate its past only makes it easier for the past to walk among them. Vanessa's escape from the pizzeria has not freed her from violence. While driving through town, she is ambushed by the Mangle, a twisted, reassembled thing that attacks her car with ferocity. Metal claws rake the paint, glass shatters, and for a moment it seems the machine will tear her from the road. Elsewhere, Toy Freddy and Toy Bonnie drift into quiet neighborhoods, peering through windows and testing the edges of normal life. Toy Freddy is about to strike a couple in their home when Vanessa, bleeding and furious, slams her brakes with a desperate, perfect timing. The sudden stop launches the Mangle through a house window and into Toy Freddy. The collision collapses Toy Freddy and spares the couple. It's a chaotic, cinematic rescue. Brutal, messy, and human in its improvisation. Mike, working frantically from the security office, manages to shut down the wireless signal that has been animating the toy animatronics. For a heartbeat, the town breathes easier. The machines go still, their menace paused. But the victory is partial. One signal finds its way to Mike's house. Toy Chica, carrying an exhausted Abby like a child cradling a friend, arrives at the Schmidt home and begins to fail. Her servos stutter, her voice glitches, and cracks spider across her painted face. When Toy Chica's chest finally splits open, the marionette Charlotte bursts free from the animatronic's hollow body like a thing that has been waiting for release. She lunges at Abby, and in a moment that is both tender and terrifying, possesses the girl to restore the wireless signal and call the others back to life. Vanessa tries to race to Mike's house, but the damage from the Mangle has left her car dead on the roadside. Jeremiah, who has been a steady if skeptical presence, finds her stranded and offers help. The small kindness is a human counterpoint to the mechanical horrors that have been unleashed, but it cannot undo what has already been set in motion. Mike realizes that brute force and circuitry won't be enough to stop Charlotte. The marionette is not merely a machine. She is a child with a grievance, and the only thing that might reach her is the thing she once loved. He returns to the Freddy's Pizzeria location, where he once worked, and calls to the spirits of the children who have been trapped in metal for decades, asking them for help. Back at the Schmidt house, Vanessa confronts the worst of her fears. Abby, possessed by the marionette, moves with a voice that is not her own. The struggle to free Mike's sister is wrenching. Mike arrives in time, music box in hand, the same tiny thing Henry Emily once used to keep Charlotte calm, and plays it. The lullaby works. Charlotte's fury softens, and she releases Abby. The moment is fragile. A child freed by a child's song. All of a sudden, Michael, who has been operating in the shadows, appears in the room and reveals himself not as an ally but as Vanessa's brother and William Afton's son, the infamous Michael Afton. His shocking reveal is a cold, deliberate thing. He intends to continue his father's legacy. He has used FazFest as a stage for a massacre, and he announces his plan with a line that chills the room. Half of this town will be dead by morning. The revelation reframes everything. The smiling man who once seemed helpful is now the architect of the carnage. Michael orders the toy animatronics to kill Abby, Vanessa, and Mike, and break their bones when Vanessa refuses to join him. The command turns the festival into a battlefield. But the plan suddenly collapses. The spirits of the children Mike had called out to for help, those same lost kids who have been bound to metal for years, arrive in the forms of the original animatronics from the first film. They move with purpose and destroy the toy animatronics Michael controls, ripping apart the puppets of his plan. The spectacle is violent. The children's ghosts reclaim their bodies long enough to stop the slaughter. Exposed and defeated, Michael Afton flees Mike's house. Jeremiah, who has been watching and waiting, punches and knocks him out, an act that is both practical and symbolic. The toy animatronics fall lifeless, their circuits cut, their bodies collapsing into the dust. As the machines go quiet, the leader of the missing children steps forward to speak. In a moment that is a sad farewell, the ghost child tells Mike and Abby that they can now move on to the afterlife. The ghost children are finally able to leave the world that trapped them, and their departure will finally put their souls to rest. Before they go, the leader offers a last, human plea: live your life. The spirits urge the Schmidt siblings to give the living world another chance and encourage Abby to embrace the life she still has. It is a tender, almost parental moment amid the wreckage. As the children prepare to move on, one of them, who had once possessed an original animatronic, warns Mike that someone will get out and be stronger than before, and that they won't be able to hold him back anymore. Mike doesn't understand the warning in the moment, but it implies the thing they feared the most may not be gone. Outside, the aftermath is messy and unresolved. Michael Afton is not where he was left. He has vanished, implying escape. Mike and Abby leave with Jeremiah, shaken and changed. Mike, feeling betrayed by Vanessa's secrecy about her brother, tells her to keep her distance. An angry human reaction that fractures the fragile alliances the night had forged. As they drive away, Vanessa watches them go, and the film gives the audience one last, cold twist. Charlotte, as the marionette, slips up behind Vanessa and possesses her. The cycle of possession and grief continues, and the movie ends on a note that is both tragic and inevitable. In the mid-credits scene, 3 young men break into Freddy Fazbear's Pizza during a storm, hunting for authentic props to sell or display. They find a secret back room, and beneath dust and plastic, the Spring Bonnie animatronic, which is an authentic Springlock suit that none of them understands, which they call finding a real one, and unknown to them, contains William Afton's decaying remains inside of it, hence the horrible smell they complain about. They wrap it in plastic and plan to haul it away, a trophy of nostalgia. But while they step out to fetch a dolly, one of the suit's eyes flickers on and glows, a small, terrible sign that something has awakened. The suit's eye then brightens into the same malevolent light fans we'll recognize from Springtrap. William Afton's spirit, no longer held back, returns in that moment, taking possession of the decayed Spring Bonnie suit and hints at a future in which he will rise again as Springtrap. The scene is a setup for a third film, a promise that the horror is not finished. The end credits carry one final chill. Henry Emily calls Mike, his voice urgent and ragged, confirming his identity as the former business partner of William Afton. He tries to warn Mike that Charlotte is still out there and that she will be coming for him. The call ends with a scream, and the film closes on the sound of terror, which makes it clear that the spectral vengeance will continue in future Five Nights at Freddy's movies. Thanks for listening to this movie recap of the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie, and what did you think of this film? See you in the next movie recap. The town of Grand Rapids had learned to trade grief for ticket sales. In April 2005, about a year after Freddy Fazbear's pizza place collapsed in March 2004. After one desperate week of night shifts had exposed secrets, no one wanted to speak. Tourists and locals folded the story into a festival. FazFest sold T-shirts, staged haunted tours of the rubble, and lit the town with carnival booths that smelled of fried dough and synthetic fear. Families came for the spectacle. Conspiracy podcasts came for the footage. Children came for animatronic mascots. Mike Schmidt, who'd escaped the collapsed pizzeria with a scar and questions in his pockets, kept trying to be ordinary. He and Vanessa Shelley lived in a bigger, steadier house now and took care of his sister Abby, who was now 12. Abby had never seen the animatronics alive the way Mike and Vanessa had. She only knew them from stories and from model endoskeletons she built in secret. She glued tiny servos and painted fake fur in the evenings, patient and fascinated. To Mike, that fascination felt like a promise he had never wanted to make. One day after the collapse, he had told Abby he would fix the real animatronics. Vanessa, who carried the weight of being Afton's daughter, told Mike not to give his sister hope. The scars didn't need to be reopened. They needed rest. But rest was a currency the town couldn't afford. The cameras loved the past. And the past, badly mended, has a way of waking. Jeremiah had been Mike's friend since grade school. He'd gone indie with a paranormal investigation startup and posted sleepy, grainy videos that steadily grew traction. He called Mike one drizzly afternoon while the festival booths at FazFest went up. "He's gone missing," Jeremiah said. He meant Steve Raglan, the recruiter who had quietly staffed local places until the sudden collapse. To everyone else, Raglan had vanished like bad sleep, but Mike felt a chill every time his name came up. Raglan had been more than a recruiter. Raglan had been a smile with teeth. Mike and Vanessa knew the truth. They knew the man's real identity, William Afton. But the rest of the town didn't. "Hey, Mike, remember that bite story I told you?" Jeremiah said. "Well, I want to look for the original Freddy building. The one from the 1980s. You remember it from the old pictures, right? I used to go there as a kid. I want to film it. Real footage, no filters." Mike refused. He'd gone through the black heart of an unspeakable nightmare once. He'd woken with terrors and promises whispered by a dying man who had said he would return. "No way, not me," he said. "I'm done with Freddy's." Jeremiah didn't push. He recruited a crew instead. Matthew, a steady cameraman. Mark, who carried sound gear and a noise detector. And Jeremy Fitzgerald, an ex-security guard who remembered the original pizzeria like a map in his head. They left in a rattling van before dawn. Jeremiah's pitch included a story he kept repeating, the bite of 87. This is what happened on that fateful day in 1987, when his friend Ryan lost everything. The birthday party had been a whirl of balloons and confetti. Ryan's mother had set him on the little stage inside Kids Cove, while other kids pressed faces to the safety glass, and Jeremiah looked on from a distance. The Mangle, a take-apart Foxy rebuild, had been a messy, tinkered thing kids loved to examine, its exposed wires and playful claws treated like a puzzle. Ryan had loved to tug and probe. He'd reached into its mouth to push a loose cog back into place. The Mangle's jaw, loosened from all of the times it had been stripped and reassembled by kids, snapped. An accidental clamp, some said. Others later whispered of a deliberate failure. Metal pinched bone, the sound was not cinematic but vividly real, a sick, wet crunch. Ryan cried out, fell backward, and blood from his arm pooled on the stage carpet. The party dissolved into chaos. Parents screamed, chairs scraped. Jeremiah, 10 years old and frozen, spoke later of a man in a yellow spring Bonnie suit standing in the pizzeria's parking lot beyond a window, watching with purple, unblinking eyes and a large knife held in a yellow hand. The sight seared into Jeremiah. An adult smiling from outside the world, eyes like cold machine lights. Ryan was taken to nearby hospital. Infection set in. Desperate surgeons worked, but the wound had gone too deep. He died a week later, and no amount of therapy could rearrange the echo of that scream. The pizzeria closed in disgrace later that year. No grand hearing, no proper justice. Because the town preferred a closed sign to an open indictment. That memory was the key to Jeremiah's obsession. He had to see the old pizzeria one more time. After discovering an old forgotten camera during the crew's exploration that had recorded the tragic Bite of '87 event all of those years ago, he uploaded the footage in addition to what his crew's newly recorded pizzeria exploration footage had captured. The video, which Jeremiah titled Mangle's Revenge, went viral like a rumor with teeth. The original building crouched behind chain link and a sagging sign that read Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Its windows were soggy with grime. Inside, it smelled like old adhesive, popcorn oil, and that unmistakable copper hint people equate with old blood. Jeremy led them down a hallway lit by the weak cone of headlamps. Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, and Toy Chica stood on a low stage, bright paint dulled by dust but shockingly intact. Toy Foxy was gone. Jeremy explained in an uneven voice. Kids had loved to take Foxy apart to make contests of who could reassemble the shell. The pieces had been looped back together, twisted in new ways, and eventually some maintenance had built that heap into what would later be called the Mangle. A terrifying animatronic with a bad sense of boundaries. The crew filmed the withered animatronics. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Stuffed in a darker wing like ghosts in storage. Jeremy's voice took on a quiet hush as he said they'd been moved here after the franchise location's collapse, a reluctant archive of what the company once discarded. They rode a boat ride, a half-functional novelty that sloshed along an indoor canal, passing murals and peeling stickers. On the wall beside Kids Cove, a poster showed a grinning Mangle and the other toy animatronics from the old brochures. Let's eat, party, rock, play, have take apart fun, rendered now like a lie. Then everything during their exploration fell apart. Mark wandered down a side hall to get cleaner audio and stumbled upon a small room with a music box. He wound the key. The puppet's terrifying face slid open like a grin. For a beat, the world seemed to inhale. Then the puppet moved with the sick patience of a marionette and strangled the breath out of Mark. His scream shredded the air. Matthew swung his camera, tried to back away, and the withered models came alive with a thought that might have once been instruction, and now was simply hunger. Mechanical hands reached. Matthew's recorder caught metal claws, and a thud too heavy to be staged. Withered Foxy's hook sliced through a hall and met Matthew. He was dragged away, his screams stuttering and then cut dead. Jeremiah and Jeremy ran for their life. Foot on gravel truck doors, the van's engine keening like an animal woke too soon. Only Jeremiah and Jeremy escaped with footage. The rest were eaten by the building. The morning after Jeremiah posted the footage, Abby left a note on the kitchen table. She'd watched Mangle's Revenge and wanted to see the animatronics for herself. She left in a hurry, bicycle wheels ringing down the street in a Faz talker, a plastic toy speaker sold at FazFest that played canned Freddy phrases, tucked into her bike's basket like a gift. Mike found the note and the empty kitchen and felt a collapse of air in his chest. He and Vanessa drove out in their car, following tire marks and tiny shoe prints. They were hours late. Abby arrived at the original building as the sun dropped. She went inside, trusting the Faz talker's guidance and childlike invitations. She didn't know what Jeremy's footage had been missing. Perhaps it was the way certain eyes followed, maybe the way the Mangle's spare parts looked like a hand reaching for a lost child. When she wandered into the office, the Mangle grabbed her, its animatronic limbs closing with clinical force, and forced her fingers onto a dusty keypad. She typed without understanding, the code the Mangle had learned the town might never have meant to use. 1987. The safes in that office were wired to safety latches, but the old systems responded. Doors clicked. The world shifted, and for the first time since they'd been placed in that building, the toy and withered animatronics were free to leave. Abby ran home crying but alive. She had no idea what she'd just done. Mike didn't want the pizzeria again. But when the animatronics started to walk empty streets in Grand Rapids, he had no choice. He agreed to help lock down the original building. The plan was simple. Get inside, check the cams, and use known tricks to hold them off. However, it turned out that it wasn't so simple. Night 1, the head trick. Mike sat in a cramped office with a bank of monitors. The toy animatronics, calibrated like the old promo footage, moved with sticky, childlike motions. Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, and Toy Chica walked through the hallways as viewed on the cameras, and then toward the office. When they reached the office threshold, Toy Freddy's camera eyes locked on a human form, Mike. The old trick worked. Mike shoved a battered Freddy Fazbear head over his own and became, to the machine's sensors, one of them. He sat like a statue until they retreated. Night 2, the hallway and Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy's laughter echoed like a child's broken music box. Mike caught a glimpse down the office's central hallway. Withered Foxy's one mechanical eye shone like a fossil ember. With the flashlight he used like a metronome, Mike forced the animatronic fox to retreat into the shadows until dawn. Each soft metallic scrape on the vents sounded like a countdown. Night 3, parts and service. Mike and Vanessa explored the deep, rotten heart of the place. The parts and service room. The air was thick with grease and the stale sweetness of old pizza. In the dark, there lay a corner where something moved slower than the rest. Vanessa found it first. A faded child's shoe. The real horror came when the lamps clicked on and the room showed itself whole. A line of small bodies tucked between crates, bones veiled in older, brittle plastic. Henry Emily later described them as the 5 missing children. The room had held the victims of William Afton's earliest crimes in a dark mess of parts and wires. From a brighter corner, Withered Freddy and the other withered animatronics stirred. Red eyes painted the room in bloodless light. With a single brutal swing, Withered Freddy's neck joint snapped toward Mike. Withered Freddy's metal teeth grated into Mike's forearm. Freddy tasted blood. Mike ran like a hunted man, routing through vents, down service corridors, slipping through stacks of crates with animatronic fingers scraping his back. Vanessa caught him at a medical station and stitched him until his arm stopped bleeding. They returned at 5 a.m., and with the Freddy head trick, a mask he'd thought was useless on the older models, Mike watched withered Chica pass by the office, passionless and almost tender in her mechanical routine. The mask worked again, as if the machines recognized not the model but the program. Night 4, they leave the building. That night they learned the rules had changed. There was a new set of rules. The animatronics no longer belonged to halls. They could leave. Vent shafts emitted the sound of copper and the patter of small gears. Toy Freddy sidled into the FazFest fairgrounds and, like a predator with a child's voice, attacked festival goers. His jaws clamped on a vendor's throat as if to test the taste of warm, living flesh. At the same time, the Mangle leapt onto a car, and the driver's hands twisted the wheel as shards of glass rained down. The car crashed into a string of booths and caught fire. Toy Bonnie crawled into a suburban living room and stabbed a homeowner through the throat with a screwdriver that had been meant for stage repairs. Toy Chica, once an apron-clad joke, found Abby's school and tore through classroom windows. Teachers were pulled out screaming into the grass. The Marionette and Balloon Boy, on cables and motors, but with their own malice, snatched children from porches and left empty swings jerking in the dark. The town's ambulances and police were swamped. Jeremiah walked the streets in a soggy raincoat, terror on his tongue as he pointed at bloody bodies while shaking and trembling. "If we don't stop them tomorrow night," he told Mike with a voice like a snapped string. "Half of this town will be dead by sunrise." The fifth night and Henry's confession. Desperate and exhausted, Mike, Jeremiah, and Vanessa found the one man who might have an answer. Henry Emily. Henry had retreated from the world, but he kept tinkering. He had always been ashamed of what he'd helped make. In his basement workshop, there were blueprints rolled like fragile scrolls, newspaper clippings taped together about Afton's early ambitions, and a single lamp that made little islands of light in a sea of dust. Henry's revelation hit like a dropped hammer. He told them the truth in pieces. He and William Afton had once been partners, dreamers who wanted to build a place where laughter and technology met. They'd made the animatronics like Freddy Fazbear to charm children, and as a cover, a system to channel a darker obsession. Henry told Mike about Charlotte, his daughter, who had died during a birthday party at the pizzeria in 1980. In a flashback, Henry showed Mike a flailing and screaming little girl smothered by a misstep. Charlotte had fallen, hit her head on a stage corner, and died before the songs ended. Henry had kept the grief private, thinking it an accident. Years later, in 1985, 5 children vanished at the original pizzeria, the missing children incident, and Henry put the pieces together. Those disappearances were no accident. Henry realized the pattern and finally saw Afton for what he was, a man who weaponized joy to conceal cruelty. Henry's daughter had been the first he murdered. Mike's abducted brother, Garrett Schmidt, had been his second a few years later in 1984, and soon after others followed. Henry believed Afton had used the animatronics as a method of concealment, a way to get kids near his abductions and hide the bodies where no one looked. Behind curtains, in parts rooms, and under masks. The springlock suits had been a last-gasp attempt at physical disguise, a horrific technology that could kill the human inside if it failed. Henry agreed to help. He fashioned an EMP-style pulse rig and a frequency modulator that would coax the animatronics into a safe mode, and then shut down critical servomotors. It was a fragile plan built on math, trust, and nerve. They returned to the original pizzeria, the 5 of them, Mike, Vanessa, Abby, Henry, and Jeremy, walking into a place slick with the sheen of the night's rain. Afton, now Springtrap, was there. He moved like a man stitched into a costume of rotten fur. When he spoke, it sounded like old hinges. "Did you really think I was gone? Where are you gonna run to? Now I'm going to kill you." He lunged at Mike, the suit's springlocks coughing like dying machines. The fight was close. Springtrap's claws found Mike's side. Pain flared white-hot, but he kept moving. Vanessa struck Springtrap with a heavy pipe. The suit staggered. Henry slammed his device into a control bank. The animatronics convulsed. Wires sparked and died. Servos stilled like puppets cut from strings. The remaining robots sagged back into their fixed poses. The crew sealed doors. They watched the machines like sleeping animals, and for the first time in days, the town took a long, trembling breath. Springtrap escaped through a grate and into the night. The damage he did was grave, but Henry made sure the pizzeria would no longer open its doors. They sealed the place. They returned the toys and wizards to a place they could no longer touch without risking more death. Grand Rapids stitched itself back together. Patrols and night watches were set, and parents kept children close. Henry retreated to his workshop to repair what he could, guilt and gear, and Mike, Vanessa, and Abby tried to go home and be a family within the new quiet. At first, they believed the worst was over. Abby went back to building tiny models, this time with tighter safety wiring. She sold them in a small online store that paid for bandages and therapy. Mike took day shifts, stayed off long nights, and drank coffee like someone learning to sleep again. But a weathered sign is seen on the outskirts of the town of Grand Rapids outside an old storefront, Fredbear's Family Diner. Old lights winked in its windows. Inside, a single bulb cast a glow over an isolated corner where something moved in the dark and made soft, metallic sounds. The hint was quiet, a dim light, a hum of an old motor, and it told a story worse than anything else. The work had not ended. Springtrap had not vanished. He lay down in other shadows, watched other rooms, and planned. Mangle's revenge had been costly. Townspeople counted coffins, stitched wounds, and burned what they could. The last sound is not music, but the soft tick of a clock, and underneath it, the mechanical scratch of claws against plaster. Yet on the edge of town, in the crumbling bones of a place that had predated the rest, a shape withdrew into a diner's backroom and began to unpick itself, to ready for the next act.